There is no ethical, cruelty-free, or safe way to produce animal products, not safe for human or other animals. And therefore, yes. Sorry I'm shaking. I'm scared, but I'm here, and I have hope, just like you.
Thank you! Thank you!
There is a simple and fundamental law that animal use harms humans. The meat and dairy and egg industries are cannibalistic, voracious in their destruction of all life, literally eating up the bodies and souls of the living. And this machinery of death draws ever more humans as well into this relentless vortex of destruction. In Canada, with less people than ever willing to participate in the killing, the Canadian Meat Council now admits to, and I quote, aggressively recruit, help me. We need to help one another sometimes when we're weak. The Canadian Meat Council now admits to, and I quote, aggressively recruiting Aboriginals, youth, and refugees, which means serving in death factories. I refuse to call this work because it is servitude. These vulnerable human groups are virtually hauled from one war zone into the next. Let's consider the Syrian situation for just one moment. The civil war was made worse by climate change-induced severe droughts. Finally, experts are talking about this as well, which we know is driven in large part by animal agribusiness. And the refugees arriving here, asking for protection, and made it out alive, are just here to be sucked back into the cycle of killing and driving the climate change that contributed to the very destruction of their homes, just to serve in slaughterhouses. The Canadian Meat Council does even more harm. Not surprising. Industry and state partner up in their relentless and violent operations of breaking into ever new markets through undemocratic trade agreements, including the Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement and the newest crime against democracy called the CETA, Canadian-European Trade Agreement. Their goal, of course, is to jam even more flesh of cows, fish, pigs, and yes, bears into European throats. But think for a minute. Europe already is killing so many animals they don't know anymore what to do with all those dead bodies. European demand is falling, so what to do? The cycle continues through economic globalization and cultural imperialism. Continue to sell, recycle, and dump the dead bodies of animals on ever new populations, even those that actually were culturally much more plant-based and vegan, through very aggressive marketing practices. Everyone here knows about the urgency to speak up and demand changes at the base, politically, personally, in our own communities, and psychologically as well. And ideologically, as Martin has explained. No more subventions or any form of support for these exploitative industries. Investment in local and vegan permaculture and in public dialogue about all these issues is needed. And certainly the solidarity with the global growing movement. And so it is also the era of globalized homelessness, an era of human and animal refugees. Slave laborers used in massive deforestation projects in the tropical forests, many of whom had been subsistence farmers for centuries, but then were forced off their lands by cattle ranchers to do what they call growing hamburgers. Rural displacement in Latin America and many other areas of the world are in large part caused by ranching. With the destruction of forests, millions of free-living animals as well are driven from their lands and killed, driving extinction and the suffering of individuals. Let's not forget, each individual animal is suffering in this driven extinction of mammals, insects, and birds. And yet the vast majority of animal victims, let's not forget, do not even have a chance to try and flee their fate. Most animal victims are still confined in death factories, barren cages surrounded by concrete and metal and darkness. And in light of all this, and even more, of course we don't have much time to discuss all these issues, there's still individuals claiming that what you consume and how you consume, what you eat, what you buy, what you wear, how you choose to deal with other species is a personal choice. I don't even know what that means. All our actions have consequences. And I'm standing here just hoping that the effects and the consequences of your initiatives and our initiatives will be positive. Realistic. We're not naive. I'm not naive, right? But still, I want to say this is also the era of a new global movement that dares to think for ourselves. Just this year, at least 15 new world cities have joined the march, and you all here today bear witness to our absolute refusal to give up on society's ability to exercise reason, to engage in public dialogue, to express our political views and visions in creative ways, even and especially in this time of crisis. One last thing. When we went into the streets, volunteers and just friendly and nice volunteers, vegans, these past weeks to just talk to people in the streets about slaughterhouses, the reality of slaughterhouses, suffering of animals and veganism, it was moving to see that deep down, people knew that it was time for a shift away from slaughter, a shift to a society that is inclusive of all animals. And we went into the village as well, talking to people in the streets, and there was so much suffering. We were walking in solidarity with them, and they were still open in the streets of the village, still open to talk about animal suffering. They kept their hearts and spirits open to realize they're not alone in their suffering, but also not alone in their political mobilization and solidarity. But I could also see doubt in their eyes and fear. Many have already lost hope that things can actually change, that we all could move beyond our own addictions of greed, fear, self-destruction, animal flesh. This march is a symbol of our determination to be the change and to continue learning exciting new ways to do politics, to practice veganism, and to develop and experiment and try better ways of relating to other species and other animals, and to work for structural change together. Those people who feel that they're not strong enough and who are not strong enough to be here today with us will join us in the future. Thank you.